My name is Marni Alvarez. I'm a recovering addict. I was an addict for I want to say 30 years, but I think it's a lot more. I'm 54, so I started when I was 13, 14 years old. So that's what started everything. And it just went on from there. I just liked the way it felt. It would make my head all tingly. It would make just it made me like just uppity. I mean, I'm already hyper already, but that just made it even more intense. My childhood was, believe it or not, it was really good. Really, I mean, I had great parents. My dad was great. My mom was great. We lived in a nice home in the city of Norwalk. We had a pool in our backyard. My dad worked very hard. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I guess you could say it was like always my own person. Always, like my mom would like yell at my sisters, and I would be like, "Oh, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not gonna listen to you." Things like that. I was always like my own person. My dad was like my he was like a big deal to me. My dad was like, how I seen him was like God to my dad. That's how I seen him. Very active as a child. We played softball for like 9 years on the last place team. It was so crazy, but we played like for 9 years, so it was fun. We went, and I actually had a great child. We went camping. We went always with our family to Dodger games. Always with my family to football games. We went. We did a lot of stuff. I had a great life. I think that what happened was like when I was in high school, like I always had like a connection to the drug world, regardless of who I knew or where I went or whatever. So like I sold drugs for a very long time of my life. Like as soon as I got connected, that was it. I sold drugs. Just selling all this stuff. I would sell pills. I would sell everything. I would sell. It's so funny because I would even sell my mom's pumpkin bread. My mom would make pumpkin bread, and I would even sell that in school. My dad was like always against that. Don't join a gang. Don't do this. And it was like, I mean, you either pick one or the other. But when you start hanging around with like a certain people, you can't start hanging around with the other people. Yeah, so yeah, I hang around with the wrong crowd, you could say. Yeah, funny because my goal as a teenager, when I was in high school, my goal was my career path was psychology. Yeah, and I went through all the courses. I worked my butt off to get accepted to colleges. I got accepted to Cal State LA, Dominguez Hills, Irvine, and Cal State Fullerton. And that sort of didn't go well. And I started to lead the wrong path and go. I started to sling instead. I sort of felt like all that time I did all that, worked so hard, and I wanted the easy life. I wanted to take the easy way out, and I could realize that I could make more money and and you know doing it that way. After those years, I my dad would like wanted me to get a job, right? And I was like, okay, I was gonna graduate high school. I still didn't work. He wanted like just me to have stuff, right? And I mean, of course, I sold drugs, but he was at work all day, so he really didn't know. Or if he knew, he really didn't like say anything, right? So I told him, okay, Dad, I'm gonna go to the mall and I'm gonna go apply for a job. I'm gonna go apply for all these jobs, right? So I did, and I applied at Nordstrom's department store, and they called me the next day, right? And I worked there for 8 years, from 18 to maybe say 6, 7 years. Okay, I worked there for 7 years, but the whole time I was high the whole time. I was high the whole time and I was young. It was the best job ever, let me tell you. It was like the best job I could ever ask for. And what would happen was I would stay up all night. I'd have to go to work in the morning. And I was like a merchandiser, and I would fall asleep in the back. I would be nodding out like, oh, like that. And I mean, I don't think anybody ever caught me, but like I was so burnt out, like so just nodding out from all the drugs that I did, and I would fall asleep back there. Just seemed like things but fell into my lap, like I think I have a great personality, but things just fell into my lap, and they just all the wrong things, of course, but it was like just handed to me. It was definitely the devil, of course, but he was just like handing me things on a platter, just handing me things that I wasn't supposed to do, and it just made it like so much easier for me to choose that life. Okay, well, me and and you know what? It took a long time for it to get old. Took a long time, but I was in some really bad relationships, like my kid's father and stuff like that, and it was like I've always been in control of my life, but when I got with my baby's father, like he wanted to be in control. He couldn't handle the thought that I was already a drug dealer and he was, wanted to be whatever he wanted to be, but he couldn't handle that, so he like wanted to control my life, right? So he sort of like was abusive. He would only give me drugs when he wanted to give them to me, and as an addict, you need them all the time, you know you need them all the time, and he only wanted to give them to me when he wanted. So he wanted to basically control my life, and it sort of happened like that. He did. So you can imagine like me not having what I needed, and him like controlling me. I was really crazy because I couldn't really picture myself like that. So things got really bad for me because I couldn't have it all the time. I had to ask for it and things like that, right? So I stuck with that relationship for a long time because that was my kid's dad. And one time we would go, and one time he went to work, and he came home early one time, right? Okay, and he came, and he met some guy who had been bringing me drugs while he was at work. This man was bringing me drugs while he was at work, and one time he came home and he caught me. He busted me. Yeah, and he was like, but it just so happened that it was a guy that he knew, right? It was a guy he knew, so he was bringing me drugs the whole time that I was sneaking around and doing that. Yeah, and he didn't like that. He did not like that. It was so bad, you know. So he would sometimes get physical, whatever. But yeah, that was a relationship. That's like twice that happened to me. I was in a relationship like that for a while, just because he like controlled me with the drugs. He like controlled my life, and then it just happened that he had sort of got saved. He went to church and got saved, and so he sort of didn't want to be together because we weren't married, and I just sort of like matured a little bit and grew up, and I was like, you know what, this ain't gonna happen. I'm done. So one day he went to work, and I just took off and left. Yeah. Okay. My husband had went to prison, right, in Sacramento, and so this was like a first time I like really I have got clean, not because I wanted to, but I had to, right? So he was no longer around. My husband wasn't around no more, and things were just going. They weren't going right for me when I lived over here in Norwalk, right? It wasn't going right for me. So I decided to move to Sacramento, and when I moved to Sacramento, I didn't know anybody there, and I was clean for a while. I was clean for a little while, and just the fact that I didn't know anybody, I just moved there, this and that, and so I was clean for a little while, and then all of a sudden I met the wrong people, and that was it. They hooked me up, and there it went from there, right? So that was the first time I tried to get clean. I mean, I didn't try; it just happened that way. So it was that was the first time. Okay, now this last time, um, my godson had got hit by a semi truck on the way home to Bullhead, Arizona, and he got killed. His truck caught on fire and he died, right? And this was the guy who I consider my son. He took care of me. I always let him stay with me. He just was a good guy. He was a dad. He just treated me really good. Like, and I loved him. He was my godson and I loved him. And when they called me and told me that he passed away, I was like, oh, wow. Like it was just a big shock to me. So what happened was I went to go stay with my granddaughter and his wife in Arizona. I went to go help her out, with whatever little thing she needed, to help her get through it, whatever. So while I was there, I got clean. I was there for a whole month and I got clean. And I stayed clean the whole month. Yeah. And I was like, dang, I came back and I was like, shoot, if I could do it for 30 days, I could do it forever, right? And I was like, man, it just felt different. And then I started thinking like, there's got to be more to life than this. Why take a guy that was so good that, like nothing, I don't know, just like out of the blue, you never know what God has in store for you for the next day, like you should cherish every day like it's your last, right? And I thought about that, and I was like, wow, like I, yeah, I think I could do this. I think, um, the whole point was like I wanted to, like, to make him proud, like, you know what I'm saying, like I didn't want him to think of me as a drug addict no more, like he's not here no more, like whatever, things like that. But it really took a toll on me, and I said, okay, I could do this. I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep doing this. And I have been in church for a long time with my daughter. My daughter had gone to church for a long time, and I would go to family groups. I would go to church if on Sunday to see my grandkids, but I never took it serious, never ever. And then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start going to family group like every day, like because like the temptation would come, like now that I was back home, the same people lived over here, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to family group every night. So I would go to a family group every night, Monday to Friday. Then I would go to church on Sunday, and I was like, you know what? I really want to stay clean. I do. I do want to stay clean, and it just went from there, and it just kept going. And then I got offered a job, and then I was like, but I stayed faithful. I stayed faithful, loyal to church, to God, and to everybody, and yeah, I never committed to anything my whole life, and I committed to that, and this is where it's got me. Yeah.